the news this morning. If you have not seen it, Arthur Staple was one of the first to report it out in New York. If it is not a trade for Trouba, Staple believes he will go on waivers later today. Frank, it feels like the Rangers doing a similar thing that they did to Barclay Goodrow earlier in the offseason, where he's blocking a trade because of his no move or his no trade clause, and the Rangers are just going to put him on waivers, let that team claim him, and go from there?
It's a possibility, yet the Rangers have been working pretty closely with Trouba and his camp over the last couple of days to try and find a suitable fix so that they don't have to go down that path. Look, this is a messy divorce in which what has been a really dramatic last 6 months or so in the Rangers' relationship with their captain. And look, you heard Peter Laviolette, their coach, talking this morning about how the team is in lockstep on this. I don't know that the players would necessarily agree, but at least Chris Drury and Peter Laviolette, the coach, are on the same page as far as a path forward. And it's really interesting to try and sit back and figure out which teams might be involved here. One team that has been reported this morning, the Columbus Blue Jackets from Aaron Portzline and others. Look, I think the list is much longer than that. This isn't simply going to be a salary cap dump for the Rangers. And then Larry Brooks reporting here within the last 10 to 15 minutes here from the New York Post that the Rangers have set their sights on trying to snare Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators, which would be a much larger transaction in which Trouba could be part of. There's a lot of moving parts to this. I've gone through the list and I've begun crossing off some teams that may not be part of it. Like one, I'll give you, for instance, one really logical choice you would think would be the Utah Hockey Club. They're without John Marino, Sean Durzi, and now Maverick Lamoureux, 3 right shot defensemen. You're thinking, okay, Trouba, they have the cap space. They certainly have the picks and ability to go after someone like Trouba. And yet it seems like Utah is not in the case. I could see the Nashville Predators being another one of those teams nibbling around the edges here as they've been looking for a top 4 defenseman. No indication yet firmly as to whether or not they're in the mix, but some of the other teams that have been mentioned, the Detroit Red Wings, Trouba is a Michigan native, and they were believed to be one of the teams that was involved with him last summer. Kevin Adams was just mentioning the Buffalo Sabres have not become a destination in the NHL for players to want to go to. I think that probably is potentially a hint at where things stand with them in the Trouba situation. But yes, make no mistake. We can say with certainty that one thing is clear. Jacob Trouba's time with the New York Rangers is coming to an end, and he will be on the move one way or the other. It's just a matter of, is it going to be by trade, or are they going to work around that no trade clause and simply place him on waivers where even he loses control of that situation because another team that might have been talking to New York or might not have expressed their interest that's lower down the totem pole could place a claim on waivers.
Trouba has one more year on his current deal with a cap hit of $8 million. And I think that does maybe work in the favor of would a random team really claim Jacob Trouba and sign themselves up for the rest of that contract?
Look, I think there's way more interest in Jacob Trouba than the general public or social media sphere would allow for in the hockey world. The tougher part is trying to figure out the cap space and how that all might work, taking that on full boat. Another team that had been mentioned was the San Jose Sharks, for instance. But, okay, let's say the Sharks end up taking on Trouba. Well, how do they then end up moving him? It's not, you wouldn't think a destination to have him parked there and be there for the remainder of the deal. The Sharks don't have any retention spots left to be able to then flip him for half price. You'd have to get a third team involved, which could then retain half. And all of a sudden, because there's term on that deal, it becomes a much more expensive acquisition to try and pull off. So I think there's a million moving parts here, and a lot has been laid on the table for Jacob Trouba to consider some potential options. I think what's really clear, you don't have to go to this one specific place, but you can't stay here any longer.
Mm-hmm. So just again, as I kind of try to wrap my head around all of this as we break it all down, the idea of putting him on waivers, and you say, again, there's interest in the player, that would not be necessarily to just wipe your hands of him and say we're clean. It would be more of a means to get him to a certain destination, maybe?
Correct. It's just a workaround of, hey, there's 15 teams on your no trade list. well, if you're not going to accept a trade, we'll complete a trade with that team for future considerations. And then we'll put you on waivers and they'll be the team that then claims you. And there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. There is precedent for this. This, as you mentioned, Barclay Goodrow, this happened recently. They tried to trade him, couldn't complete the deal. San Jose steps in and grabs him on waivers. And that's that. I don't think that that'd be the preferred choice for anyone. But look, this is the contract that Jacob Trouba and his agent negotiated. That full no move clause flexibility that or force that Jacob Trouba had in his deal that expired on July 1. So once that happened, the first 6 years of the deal were a full no move. He couldn't be placed on waivers without his permission. Now that that's expired, this is an avenue that the Rangers can pursue. It's perceived as cutthroat, but I think when you really kind of boil it down and consider all of this here, the fact that they've gone to him and laid out a list of potential options for him, and he's still resistant to that, sometimes teams have no choice, and this is the workaround that they have at their disposal to try and make some changes.
I smell a loophole that will be closed in the next CBA, or will at least be a sticking point. Like if it's happened twice, I can't imagine that PA's thrilled about this happening.
Yeah, but if, again, the other option was to get all 8 years of a full no move. You had it, and you had it for the first 6 years. That's expired, and now you've opened yourself up to it. This is the deal that you negotiated. So if you don't like it, as much as fans and other players might not like it, and as much as Trouba might not like being force-fed a new destination, then it was on him to take less money in exchange for a full no move.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.